Anyway, hate to be a little drum, but I just, I've been watching a couple of news articles this weekend and last night, and the country's really getting crazier and crazier. So, and I'm saying the same thing in hopes to get people's attention, because we need to have a united middle class. A united and healthy middle class creates a strong America. And you have to listen to who wants that to happen and has ways of making it happen. And then we need to vote people in and vote people out according to their strengths or weaknesses. And it's going to take some time to do, to get finally a handle over our political system, because we have no handle over this. And the founding fathers gave us this, we owe it to them. They weren't perfect people, and they were elites, but they at least saw that this country, the middle class of this country needs to run the important issues directed by our politicians. And just like you have the head of a company and you have the crew of a company, if that's not going right in a company, one or the other, that company goes out, right? Well, this country is much, obviously a whole different scenario, but it matches a bit, because we're on the way to communism right now, or socialism, and there's just no getting around that fact that either we come together and we pull together and we look out for our neighbors and we talk to each other and we do those things that our founding fathers gave us the freedom to do, and or we don't have a society anymore. Anyway, we're going to start getting this down. I'm still working on some lighting. Barbie's moving to California, so she's going to be producer Barbie remote. But I think we might be able to get her on camera this way. So with all of that said, you guys have a great weekend. Say hi to each other. Go out and say hi to somebody. Just wave at them, man. Start that way. Just wave at them. Every time you see them, wave at them. You don't know them. And then you'll see the reaction change, evolve. You'll see the body language evolve. Go out and say hi to a couple people today. Anyway, love you guys. Thanks for being here.
So, have you gone out and said hi to anybody lately? It is Thanksgiving week coming up, and so this is a really good week. But we're talking about today. So, right now, I'm your host. Well, I'll always be your host on this show. I'm Rod Duff, Insights and Straight Talk, and right now, I want you to buckle up, because today we are launching something brand new, something I've been excited about, something my granddaughter Emma's been excited about, and something I know that the great middle class is ready for, whether we all admit it or not. This is Next Generation 2.0. And before we go any further, let's address the obvious question. Where is Emma? Why am I here alone? Why is a 63-year-old man holding down the first episode of a series about the next generation? Well, the answer is simple. Emma has officially entered that stage of life where she is doing everything, everywhere, all at once. New school, new gig, first job, boxing, homework, life. The girl is moving faster than my Wi-Fi on a good day. And she told me last night, Grandpa, I need to take a minute. I said, take 10. I've got this. So yes, today I'm taking the stage solo. It's interesting concept. But don't worry, she's not gone. She's not retired. She's not on strike. She's living exactly the reality the show is built to talk about. Because this generation is in motion. Let's be honest, okay? When I was 16, my biggest weekly decision was whether to put $10 of gas in the car or go to the movies. Today's teens are managing schedules that look like miniature corporate calendars. My God, they're juggling work, school, sports, mental health, digital life, physical life, future life, and whatever version of this metaverse that we're on at or in at this point. This generation doesn't stand still. How could they? The world won't let them. And that is exactly why Generation 2.0 exists. For about 50 years, adults told young people, pick a path, stick to it, and don't get cute. But the world changed, and this generation noticed before anybody else. They figured out that staying the same is now riskier. That's riskier than changing everything. Don't They don't see life as a straight line, nor should they. They see it as chapters, as rooms to walk through, shoes to grow out of. And honestly, they might be onto something. If you ask a teenager today, what do you want to be? You can actually see their soul leave their body for about 3 seconds. Not because they're lost, not because the question, it's because the question feels like asking somebody to predict the weather in 2047. They don't freeze because they don't care. Okay? They freeze because they know the whole world might change by lunchtime. Let me tell you what they actually fear. It's not failure, not changing their mind. They fear being stuck. They fear wasting years in a life that doesn't fit. They fear waking up at 40 and realizing they never let themselves experiment. Honestly, that might be the smartest fear I've ever heard. And that brings me back to Emma. She's not here today because she's failing. She's awesome. She's not here because she's tapped out or anything like that. She's not here because she's overwhelmed. She's here because she's living. She's growing. She's reinventing. She's doing what every 16-year-old should be doing. Trying things, dropping things, picking up new things, figuring out who she is and who she is not. And she will be back soon with more perspective and more fire than ever. We all know that. Meanwhile, I'm here to open this door for all of us, to say out loud what most adults whisper. This generation scares us a little bit, not because they're reckless, not because they're bold. They're fast, they're fluid. They don't cling to the past. They question everything. And sometimes they ask questions we just don't have answers for yet. And maybe that's the point. Maybe success isn't about settling anymore. Maybe stability isn't the highest goal. Maybe adaptability is the new currency. Maybe the future will belong to the people who can reinvent themselves faster than the world can outgrow them. So today we begin this new journey, a journey where I, the grandpa, don't lecture teens. I learn from them. A journey where Emma, when she returns, won't be here to recite a script. She will be here to tell the truth about growing up in a world that changes every 5 minutes. And in the meantime, I'll hold the mic. I'll set the stage. I'll warm up the engine. It's a little chilly in here. I'll create the space she'll walk into next time and with more voice, more clarity, and probably more caffeine than she should have. So, welcome to episode number 1, folks. Welcome to the new chapter. Welcome to Next Generation 2.0. Let's begin. How are you folks all doing today? I am loving this Saturday. It's a beautiful day out. It's a little chilly, as I alluded to earlier. There's 367 people on board. I appreciate you guys being here. I think the monologue is kind of coming along. I rewrote that, and I had to rewrite that thing 20 times over the last 2 days. Well, maybe not 20, 10 times, just trying to figure out the wording, because hopefully this is all becoming a really good way to set up for our audience what's coming, what the thoughts are, what beliefs there are out there that need to have a voice, or that needs to have a voice on this show. I really love doing and bringing on 363 people. Please subscribe. I appreciate you all being here. Keep this movement going. I'm kind of growing things out a little bit. I think I'm going to grow my hair out into some moppy mess, and maybe grow a full beard, and then I'll shave it all off like I did before. That's reinventing ourselves, isn't it? This is, to me, a really important episode, because, well, I think each one are. I love having the expert guests on, and I like your question, Adam. I'll hit you up here in a second. Already the questions are coming in. Please subscribe, and please like the show if it's the kind of subject matter that you would like to see more of here on Insights and Straight Talk. So as Adam alluded to, we're obviously going to be talking a lot about Gen Z today, and what's coming. On Monday, I will be doing the show with my son Brandon about the future family. What does the family of today look like compared to the family of generations past? They're literally, Brandon, my son, that family, my boys' families are living right on the bridge of what was, which they've seen, and which will for always now ever be, which they are living and are bringing in. As compared to my granddaughter's generation, now then coming up, will never see the world as it was seen by me and their father. The world is just, the Jetsons are here is the bottom line. But with that, we're doing some comparisons in how that generation, those teenagers coming up, how their life is moving at such hypersonic speed. They're changing the way we look, or the way priorities look, moving in the future. For instance, the very one here that we're talking about here, I'm going to bring you on here, Adam. Gen Z redefining success by choosing growth over stability. Growth and yes is the answer, Adam. Gen Z is redefining success by choosing growth over stability. As I said, in the old days, the old ways, you pick something and you're stuck with it. Don't get cute, right? Now we have that stability isn't feasible. That definition of stability, or that definition of success, isn't feasible in a world that changes every 5 minutes. and isn't going to slow down in any time soon. Um, their their adaptability is what's really um, their ability to be adaptable is what's really defining their success. And honestly, our own successes as well as their parents' success, because it's moving already in ways that we have to really look within ourselves and make harder decisions today. So let's put AI aside. Look at what's going on with the inner takeover of our government, our political, our legal, our religious freedoms are all at stake. So as this new world comes flying in at us, we also now have political pressures that um, hopefully have been recognized and said, whoa, stop here a second. The recognition has come soon enough, hopefully, to where the pulling back on some of the damage that's already been done. And I know this won't be part of today's discussion, but it's an important topic that we need to get more and more into. How does that next generation feel about capitalism? About these are all subjects that we're going to really dive into in Generation 2.0. So, with that said, how does capitalism square in the new world, the changing world as it comes? How does the acceptance of different, completely different cultures and priorities that don't want to assimilate but want to force change on the people here already? This country's history, this country's DNA, this country's um, lifestyle, this country's heartbeat, that being changed. That's an interesting place to go. It's during this series. So, Adam, as far as Gen Z, rebuilt, redefining success by choosing growth, and I'd say flexibility. I'd say a lean, more of a fluid process over stability. Stability is, I think, an outdated term that doesn't exist in this part of it, doesn't exist in today's world. All right. Gerard, why does reinvention feel more natural to this generation than sticking to one path? It's the world of today. It is literally the world coming together in a different way. I want to see something here. Somebody told me that I'm getting different view ratios on the different setups of the camera. We've done something here, which actually I think is kind of neat, but I'm afraid it might be messing me up. Hold on, give me a second here while I look this up. Let's see. Ed, hi Rod. Okay. I don't want to look it up. I was seeing if somebody was going to comment about it again. Some people in the audience were like, "Hey, you're getting different viewers on different," and it actually might be splitting up or hurting the episode. I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't hurt the numbers, so to speak. But anyway, um, what to answer what you're asking there, Gerard. I think it's a pretty, we talk a lot about this on the show, and in the opening monologue we even alluded to it a bit, and reinvention in today's world is a life skill. It's not a fear factor. It's not a it's not a negative thing. Reinvention today is because and why do they feel so natural in it? Because they're constantly doing it. They live in a digital world where I grew up and have lived most of my life in basically an analog world, right? If you compare those things together. And so, as I alluded to in the opening monologue, um, we're living in a world that may completely change by lunchtime. We're living in a world that both and as I talk about this, I kind of by the way, I we are streaming to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to X, and to Instagram. I know the Instagram was working because I heard it playing. I actually had it open for some reason, and I heard it playing right as the opening uh, video was playing, and I'm like, oh shit! So I got that fixed. But so we are streaming to all 5 platforms simultaneously now, and we have gone into this new thing called Mars, MARS, which is a StreamYard adaptivity. Let's call it an adaptivity. And what it does is it allows me to pick what ratio I want to send out to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to YouTube, to X, and then to Instagram. I can't choose on the last 2 because it is the platform. But what it does do is if you're on a camera, I actually have both screens in front of me right now. But if you're using a camera, a phone, then the ratio is taller than wider, right? Kind of like a what is it? The landscape versus the whatever the other name is. But so and then also on YouTube, you can pick both, and whether somebody's watching on their phone, it'll show the most beneficial way to watch the show on a phone, or at the same time, if you're watching on your computer or a big screen, then you have the landscape that will automatically go on to that. And it does show that it's 2 separate live streams. So I'm just wondering if I'm actually doing the show any benefit by using the Mars. Uh, it's a aspect ratio, um, both at the same time. If I'm doing any favors to the show by doing that, I would think that I would be getting more of a. I would be releasing a better product out to people who are watching it, just depending on what they're on. But then again, I'm also, let's say there's 100 people watching on their phone. There's 358 people watching right now. Now, is that 100 of them on their phone, and then 365 on their computer, or vice versa? That'd be interesting stuff to figure out and look at as I learn more about this stuff. But so vertical or horizontal or landscape, horizontal. Those are the 2 aspect ratios. And so back to your question, the reason they're more natural in this is because they have to be. This is the world they're living in. Whereas a world, I'm already living in this world, but I'm living at a different spot within it. In other words, I'm living, having 63 years of going through life and having my experience uh, gained and let's see, how would I want to say that experience received throughout and now the world is starting its change. I have to be aware enough using my past experience, not 16 years of experience, but 63 years of experience, using that experience to be able to address and make decisions, frankly, on what I do and don't want to reinvent myself about. This generation, while it's hard to do for me, and I've done it, um, because I hit the wall. You know, I did it out of neat necessity, right? And and this generation now, they're so natural with it because they they, they don't know what their life's going to be like. I sitting down, looking ahead at life, I knew I have these choices, but I knew what the world was. I knew what the game was that was being played. I knew what, I mean, you know, as much as a 16-year-old could. I was no savant or anything like that. But we all knew generally how the world was going, and then somewhere along the line, the internet came along. That changed shit dramatically. Then cell phones, that changed shit dramatically, but they all kind of came in their normal patterns, their normal um, ways that you know, you hear about these things for years, and then and then and then they become commercially viable. In other words, people can afford them, so they become massively put out there. The internet has been around, you know, was created by the government. I think it was the Army, in cooperation with, I believe, wow, I forgot who it was. Was it? It wasn't Oregon. I don't think it was Oregon. I want to say Washington State, but that might be right. So anyway, but that was for a military purpose, obviously, and eventually it became something. In other words, the military had moved on to the next bigger, better thing, probably several generations further. I mean, let's face it, when the military is using something, that's nowhere near what they have down the road. But we're generations ahead of any other country, any other military in technology and everything else. And yes, we constantly battle it, but I think that that a lot of the fear mongering that's going on, that China and others are catching up to us, I think is more of a, hey, pump us more money so we can get more stuff, kind of an approach. But you know, that is a discussion for another day as well. So this generation is comfortable in their skin, in their reinvention of themselves, because nobody knows, and they're the ones that are being handed this and are going to be living it. They're the ones that are 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 knowing that their world is much less obvious to them than my world was to me at this age and beyond. And again, I'm not just talking about the AI fracture or the AI and coming almost 400 people on. Let's get us over 400 today, guys. I'd love to be on up into the 400s today, and for audience, I'd love to get a lot more questions going here, and please subscribe if you would. Please, if you're new here, subscribe. So yeah, I think we're going to be seeing. I think in my lifetime, still, I will witness much more change to come, and I will witness my granddaughter's generation really having some big roles in laying this new world out in front of us. I hope that hits you up pretty good. They're here, Richard. Do you young people today feel pressured to have everything figured out early? Um, Maybe not everything figured out early. There is a lot of pressure on young people today. There's no doubt about it. More than in previous or earlier years. By the way, next week, let me give a shout out to the Mangum City Library. Um, they are phenomenal hosts and sponsors, and really believe a lot in the Regeneration School project. And we'll be talking more about that as well. Hopefully, there's some questions coming in on it. Um, but um, Next week, as you know, is the holidays here, and well, Thanksgiving holiday is next week during the week, and so there'll be a very light schedule. We have shows, one with my son on Monday about basically it's a similar theme, and we're just starting up a series there as well. Similar theme, but for that generation, what it's like raising families. You know, they're the first generation since the Great Depression who are expected to not have a better lifestyle than their parents did. First time, um, and that really files into a lot of the political pressures of change, and how people are justifying looking at, socialistic um, systems, entertaining socialism into our Sebastian of a country. I always talk about a utopia. Well, there's something standing in the way here at the moment. And I'm different religions and all of that are all a beautiful melting pot of this great country. But you have to melt in. You have to assimilate. And if there's situations that aren't and are refusing to do so, on and on. There's some very very peculiar 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 peculiar. Wow, I can't say that word. Things that are happening right now, and um, that's something we really need to. What's happening in Michigan, uh, the election in New York, which has no scenes yet, so I don't know. Um, but tying that in with what's going on in Flint, Michigan, and the governor of Texas having to outlaw Sharia law. Um, these are pretty big warning signs, folks. And it's not about being a racist. It's not about being, something bad. It's about recognizing that something bad is happening right now to our country, and it's being done on purpose. Not those individual things, but if you really want to go back and look over since, say, Obama, let's say there, probably earlier than that, but let's just say Obama, where all this kind of is been this behind the curtain, the people being let in over the south and northern border for the last 4 years by the gabillions, wasn't by accident. It wasn't by being a bad president. It was about somebody having um, their own mission and their own vision of what they wanted this country to be. Forget about the fact that we're a democratic republic. They're just going to force it to happen. I guarantee you that's what's been going on. And really, I guarantee you that that the political side, the getting in new leaders, is something we need to do. Or is the next generation wanting this type of government, this type of leadership? Are they wanting for this country to travel a different and completely separate road? Those are conversations I really look forward to having. So, do they feel pressured about having everything figured out? No, but what they do feel pressure about is, well, maybe there are some cases that might be true. But I think there's more pressure on comparing themselves to others, and what the future is actually going to look like, and are they ever going to be able to figure everything out? Meaning, are they ever going to be able to figure everything out? I mean, seriously, look at the way the world is changing. Is it okay? We're getting closer to 380. Keep coming, folks. Come on, let's get to 400. Let's get a hundred subscriptions today. If you're new, please subscribe. But I think they're more pressured to because they're competing in a world that in their DNA for all time has led a certain way. Your first job is a McDonald's kind of job, or a gas station attendant kind of thing, or mowing lawns, or different simple tasks. And I think now, they say, I've mentioned this a couple times before, and I don't know what the number is now, but they say we only use 10% of our brain. And I think this is the time where something else is going to be unlocked in there. That more, I think kids today think more and know more. Obviously, they're exposed to more, think more than we ever did, and now they have to be there. They have to be at that spot. We never had to reinvent ourselves if we didn't want to. They do all the time because the world is re-scripting itself. The world is redrawing its own boundaries and action plans and directions and what is real, what is not. What direction is this country going to go in, and will it be able to sustain itself? What is it to be a neighbor today? What are you supposed to? How do you compare to some 16-year-old girl in Paris? These things happen in seconds, milliseconds. All of these different things that create a world that isn't looking like it ever has before, and that's going to get more so. So Richard, there you go. I sometimes I just love sitting and pondering these thoughts through. The questions that you guys ask and bring on are truly, they're inspirational to me. And so let's go on with Jason here. Jason Tilley. How does constant change shape the way Gen Z builds their identity? Well, exactly. These questions are very, very similar in trait, meaning that the way that Gen Z shapes and builds their identity is created by the constant change that we have today. So, like trends, Emma talked about this a number of shows ago now, but we were talking about certain type of shoes, and some people, because that shoe is now popular, you got to go get that. Because this meme is popular, you gotta go try that. And then you're comparing your work to their work, and it's just a constant. This is popular now. No, now that's popular. Now that's popular. Got to go over here. This is popular. Got to eat this food. Take a picture with that foodie. There's even a word named foodie out there, and I always thought that was kind of cute. We're right at 380. Come on, folks. We just need 22 more to get to 400. I know nobody here. Here, go get your kids or go get your grandpa and have them watch in the other room. So constant change shapes the way Gen Z builds their identity, and they have to, because it's a flexible world that's moving extremely fast. So it completely, to answer your question, it completely shapes how they build their identity, because it's got to be able to turn on a dime. You got to be able to pivot. You know, what's real today isn't real tomorrow, as I was saying. And the other thing is, man, you got to be careful about what you're saying, because they also grew up in a world now that if you said the slightest wrong thing that was okay and relevant back then, but now you bring it forward 40 years or 20 years or whatever, and now it's an evil thing. And you know, a lot of people have been caught up in all of that mess as well. So it's a different world we're living in, and that's how that's and as you're growing up, what's happening in that world is often what typically shapes a person. So what makes the generation so open to pivoting and trying new directions? Because every 5 minutes the freaking world changes, and 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 the values that people hold are evolving. They're reshaping. They're you know, somebody, speaking of this, it's a little off topic, but I saw something today that made me kind of stop and think. This morning, I was watching a news something on the news, and it was around the transgender topic. So you know, let's see, queer, gay, GG. Anyway, that whole series of letters, I've always kind of wondered, and then now there's a lot of discussion about, you know, mental illness and transgender and so forth, and and somebody brought up a point to all of this, and it made me really kind of stop and think, because I grew up when I grew up in a world where homosexuality started to come out of the closet, right? Okay, um, and you know, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody in the middle, the great middle class, ever really was concerned about um, homosexuality. Now AIDS came out, and that added this thing to it, and it became almost the well, not almost. It did become, AIDS became the thing of COVID in its own time, but it was connected to a group of people that had a lot have a lifestyle. And I only say lifestyle, just, I don't mean any disrespect by that. But I don't think most people really were concerned about if somebody was gay, although there was extremists on both sides. But it reminded me very much of what's going on now. Back then, that time, and comparing that to the transgender time of today, and this whole discussion. And during when homosexuality came out of the closet, I was like, okay, but then there were forces that, you know, you have to. There were, my whole concept is fine with me. Just, you know, live your life. I mean, this is America. This is what you're supposed to do. With transgenderism, if that's a right word or if that's a right description, without, you know, I was much, you know, when gays came out of the closet, it was like, cool, okay, cool. What's up, bro? But then with transgenders, um, it's such a in your face. I mean, I guess gays were in your face too, the gay pride and all that. Um, and but it has a different feel. Um, and this time, I was just like not on it, but but it's so much in discussion. You have to think about it. I mean, it has to be part of a thought somewhere in the day. I mean, unless you're not watching the news or anything. But so there's definitely extreme sides of this that really, to me, are absolutely unacceptable. But then there's sides that are like, are we now? So homosexuality is part of our society, and I don't think anybody gives two hoots about it. So are we just in that moment now that we were originally? Because in this discussion, it wasn't about banning or about this or about that, but the discussion was about marginalizing people or groups. Now, granted, we're talking about way less than 1% of the population. So it's not like a majority thing. Now, should men be in girls' sports? I don't care what they were, what men are men, women are women. That's the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. So in these two things about men being in populations of women because they're a cis or a trans, whatever the right terminology is, um, that to me is objectionable, very objectionable. Same thing with being in women's sports. That to me is very objectionable. I don't get why Title IX is all of a sudden um, not written correctly. I think even Biden changed Title IX to include trans women, which is bizarre to me. But that aside, um, there's parts of society that are parts of society. Now, is there a mental issue here? I would not be surprised, but again, I don't know. So I'm actually having a discussion in a couple of weeks with somebody who is involved in the trans community. They're a lawyer. They're a counselor. They do a lot of work for the veterans and other things. So this isn't a trans show, but I'm really curious to really understand where they're going. And you know, in this case, gays and lesbians, there's not an identity thing here. They're gay and or lesbian. Um, and they now you have to add this whole thing of their pronouns and this and that. So it's it's something that needs to be flushed out, and um, either now remember homosexuality, it was a mental disease at that. So all these same things we're just rehashing again, and it's because we aren't talking about it. And it's a volatile subject. So I hope we have a good subject next in a couple of weeks about that. So let's come back to Danny here. What makes this generation open to pivoting and trying new directions? Well, it's because they have to. The world changes so quickly nowadays that they have no choice but to pivot, because who knows what tomorrow's dream, what that's going to look like. Not because you don't have a dream or you have a dream, either one, but because that dream may not be a reality under the circumstances of the way the world has pivoted since you started having that dream. There may not be that kind of job or that kind of thing. It may look totally different. Um, the world is a very curious, always has been interesting place to live. And now it's, my son and I talk about this. Are we living in the matrix? Is what does that mean? And what does that look like? Because, what's going on here? There's a lot of interesting things. So how can adult, looks like there's a typo there, Clayton. How can adults support teens without adding pressure about the future? Yeah. Well, first of all, what do you want to be when you grow up? That question is outdated. That question needs to go away. It's who are you becoming, right? Who are you becoming? So I think that us recognizing that their world is literally different than our world, and that's always been the case, from an adult to a child. I heard a funny joke the other day. Everybody's a communist. Everybody who has a family, you're a communist. It's your needs, you shall receive accordingly. And then you move out a little bit, and everybody kind of wants to be a socialist. Out in your community, if somebody's having trouble, you though these be your needs, let's distribute a little wealth and help somebody out within your community. And you go out nationally, it's like fuck everybody. The systems need to be able to work within the society that we have. I just kind of threw that in because it made me think about how do we support the kids of today. We need to ask them questions of what they see the world becoming, and what is their vision of the world? What do they see coming? We need to understand what they're trying to understand. And I think with that, we can have a much more supportive structure, a much more apparatus is the word I was trying to think of. We can have a much more supportive apparatus without holding pressure. They need to have a voice. What is it that, without judging, without anything. And this again, this is not about the old '60s love and wallflowers, but I mean there is something to that, that whole make love not war. And I think we're kind of at that point, and then the world's changing on top of it. We're back in the '60s where we're confused. We're hearing differing stories, and they're not adding up. And the world is changing every 5 seconds. So you just imagine what's going on, because it's all these same things repeating themselves throughout history. You can go back and see where the disturbance overflows into society, and now that's the society we're working with, or that is within the society we have, because these new things have just fallen. Just the weight of them has fallen onto all of us, and we need to address that. We need to understand that we can't keep doing this, especially as the world now is starting to change so quickly. And with technology, the way it's streaming, there's going to be all new leaders, in the world we know. Small countries that are technically further ahead, there's going to be some pivots that still occur. So, Icella, what skills help young people reinvent themselves with confidence? Why? That's a really good question. That's a tough one. What skills do young people reinvent? See, what skills help young people reinvent themselves with confidence? I think having that voice, having that ability to bounce ideas off of somebody who's got a little bit more experience, maybe, or somebody who's close to them. That the ability to with confidence know that whether they're to know that asking the question is okay and is encouraged and is sought after. A kid having that kind of skill, having that kind of tool, gives the basis, gives the foundation, gives the apparatus for them to be able to confidently go out and reinvent themselves, and reinvent themselves in a way that works for them, that works best for them. I'm not talking about crazy, wacky ideas, although we all have those at times. But I am talking about the ability for a child or a young adult to be able to pivot and reinvent themselves is really a life skill that is now more than ever an important skill to hold, to have, to possess. So I think having that in your life, having the grown up in a world that wants to know your voice, is an important skill to have. Why does this generation treat life like chapters instead of a storyline? Well, I mean, because things change. In a storyline, it's kind of a plot, right? You're just going down the storyline, and it's one's leading into the other. And while in chapters the same thing occurs to a degree, in chapters you have a completed chapter, you have a completed story in essence, and then that new story, still related, but that new story starts to develop and open up. And I think that's an important way to look at life today, in that when I grew up, it was a storyline. You knew what your storyline was, and you just kept going down that storyline, and you made the most of it, and you did your gig. Today, it's more like I said, like a chapter, in that chapter will be different. There'll be another story. There'll be a different story that's adding to the whole of the book, but the chapter is the way to look at life now, because they may be in a completely different life style. A new chapter better defines that than a storyline for these kids today. By the time they're 20, they're not just evolving like I did from 16 to 20. And we all are different people. So, take that whole, but we all do it differently anyway. This is so much more. And I'm excited for them, because they're gonna live things I could never, or maybe only dream of. And I'm not talking about elegance, but I'm talking about their lives will be done in ways that I could never imagine before. This has been a really good show, folks. We're right at an hour. We're still over. We never hit the 400. Got close, but this is Insights and Straight Talk. I'm your host, Rod Duff. I'm here 6 days a week, bringing a message to y'all, and check us out next week. We only have 2 shows because of the holidays. I think we come back Saturday, but I'm not sure. I'll let you know. And for now, I'm going to go get some rest. I'm going to take, yesterday was a half a day, which I really needed that, man. I fell asleep. I actually slept twice yesterday. I recharged my battery, because I'm Rod Duff. I'm out of here.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.
Hey,